Her ex-husband dumped her for being infertile. 15 years later, she crashed his gala with 4 new faces and a billionaire husband. Look at her, 10 years and not a single child. What kind of woman can't even give her husband an heir? She's barren, worthless. The words echoed through the room, each one a dagger. He didn't just cast her aside, he humiliated her openly, stripping her of dignity in front of friends and family. She walked away broken, carrying the weight of his mockery and 15 years of silence. To him, she was finished, ashamed to be forgotten. But life has a way of rewriting stories, because the woman he once ridiculed as barren was destined to return in a way that would leave him trembling, and the world staring in disbelief. Sometimes the ones mocked in public rise to become the ones celebrated in glory. Sometimes the woman you shamed becomes the name no one can ignore. This is the story of a woman who bore her scars in silence, only to return in a way no one ever expected. And today, it is being retold by me. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and how this touched you. The dining hall glittered with gold chandeliers and tall mirrors, the kind of wealth that David Miller loved to parade before others. Waiters in black vests moved briskly between tables, serving wine and roasted lamb, while the laughter of well-dressed guests rose like music. At the long head table sat David, his smile polished, his dark hair combed back. Beside him, Sarah. Miller smoothed the fabric of her pale blue dress, her hand trembling under the table. She had chosen the dress carefully. Simple, soft, the kind David used to say made her look radiant. But tonight, he had not looked at her once. David clinked his glass, drawing the room's attention. His voice, smooth and commanding, carried easily. Friends, family, partners, I welcome you to our table tonight. We Millers are proud of what we've built together. Polite applause. David smiled wide, basking. Sarah tried to smile too. For 10 years she had been his wife, cooking for him, standing beside him at events, holding him when business turned sour, giving up her own career to be the wife he wanted. She remembered the early years when he would take her hand and whisper, "We'll build everything together, Sarah. Just you and me." Those days felt like someone else's life. David's smile shifted. A sharp glint entered his eyes. "Of course," he said, "not all successes are equal A." Hush fell. Sarah's chest tightened. She knew that tone, mocking, cruel, dangerous. David swirled his wineglass. "We've had success in business, success in society, but one success." He paused for dramatic effect. "Still escapes us." Sarah's hand tightened on her napkin. "Please, David, not here, not like this." 10 years of marriage, David said, his voice louder now, and still, no children. Gasps and murmurs flickered around the table. Sarah's throat closed. She whispered, "David, please." But her words drowned in the buzz of whispers. He kept going. 10 years, and not a single heir to carry the Miller name. What kind of wife fails in her duty to her husband? A cruel chuckle came from halfway down the table. Clara Evans, sharp cheekbones, crimson lips, a woman far younger than Sarah, hid her smirk behind her glass. "What a pity," she said sweetly, her voice pitched just enough to carry. "All that beauty, wasted." A few guests chuckled, some exchanged knowing looks. Sarah's cheeks burned. She leaned toward her husband, her voice trembling. "David, please stop. We tried. We both know how hard I tried." He sneered. "Tried? What good is trying when it brings nothing? All your doctors, all your treatments, all your prayers, and still my house is empty, cold, childless." Her lips trembled. "That isn't fair. David slammed his palm on the table. Glasses rattled. Gasps rose. "Fair? You dare speak to me of fair? Do you know what's unfair, Sarah? Being mocked by partners, being pitied by colleagues, being told, 'Ah, David, So successful in business but no heir? What a shame. His voice rose with each word. Do you know how humiliating it is being tied to a barren woman? Sarah flinched as though struck, her vision blurred with unshed tears. Clara leaned forward, her eyes glimmering with false sympathy. Oh, David, you've been patient. For so long. Too long, perhaps. A man like you deserves an heir. A future. Not... Her eyes flicked deliberately toward Sarah. A dead end. Laughter erupted, some nervous, some mocking, some eager to join the cruelty of the powerful man at the head of the table. Sarah's chest ached as if her ribs would crack. She turned to David, her voice breaking. I gave you everything. My love, my time, my sacrifices. I sold my jewelry to fund your business. I stayed up all night helping with your books. I defended you when people said you'd ruin me. I stood by you through every storm. And what did it bring me? David snapped, his eyes blazing. Bills, disappointment, and 10 years of emptiness. The whispers swelled. 10 years and not one child. Poor man. He deserves better, Baron. Such a shame. Sarah's hands trembled. Her tears threatened, but she clenched her jaw. She would not give them the pleasure of seeing her sob. Her lips barely moved as she whispered, David, I loved you. He barked a laugh, cruel and sharp. Love? Love without legacy is worthless. You are worthless. The words echoed like stones thrown into a well, bottomless and final. Sarah's head spun, the walls closed in. Around her the room buzzed with gossip and quiet laughter, and at the corner of her eye, Clara's smirk glowed like a blade twisting in her heart. The laughter rolled across the dining hall like thunder. Sarah sat frozen, her napkin crumpled in her trembling hands. David leaned back in his chair, smirking. You see? He said loudly, turning to the guests. 10 years, and still no heir. What is a marriage without children? What is a wife who cannot give her husband legacy? A woman at the far end murmured to her neighbor, Poor David. He deserves a son. All his hard work, wasted on her. A man beside her chuckled. Imagine being chained to that shame. I'd have left years ago. Sarah's face burned as every whisper stabbed. Her heart begged her to scream, but her voice barely rose above a whisper. David, don't do this. Please. Not here. David's eyes narrowed. Why not here? Why not let the world see the truth? That I, David Miller, have been shackled to a barren woman for 10 wasted years. Clara leaned forward, placing a manicured hand on David's arm, her voice dripping with mock pity. Don't be so harsh, David. She tried. But some women just aren't meant for motherhood. She turned, meeting Sarah's eyes with a cruel smile. Perhaps you should accept it, dear. Some flowers bloom, some simply wither. The guests laughed again. Sarah's chest tightened. I stood by you when no one else did, she whispered. Her voice shook, but she forced the words out. When your business was failing, when creditors called in the night, when you had nothing, I believed in you. For a fleeting second, David's smirk faltered. Then he slammed his fist against the table. And what did it matter? I built my empire, not you. I pulled myself from the gutter, not you. You were just there, clinging to me like dead weight. Sarah flinched. Images flashed through her mind. Her pawning her grandmother's gold bracelet to pay his first office rent. Her selling the car she loved so he could cover supplier bills. Her sitting by candlelight, ledger books in hand, calculating numbers while he slept. Her lying to her parents, defending him when they said, David will ruin you. Her throat closed. Tears slid, hot and silent. And what did it all buy me? David jeered. A cold house. Empty halls. No laughter of children. No heir to carry my name. You gave me nothing but wasted years. David. Sarah's voice broke, raw. We could have tried together. We could have fought together. But instead, you... She looked at Clara, her eyes glassy. You chose her. Clara's laugh was soft, mocking. Oh, don't make it sound so tragic. David simply needed more than you could ever give him. Men like him need legacy, Sarah. They need heirs. And me? She leaned closer, smirking. I still have time. The words cut deep, though Sarah knew they were designed to. Enough, Sarah whispered, rising unsteadily to her feet. Her chair scraped loudly against the floor, silencing the room for a moment. If this is what you think of me, if this is what I am to you, then let it be known. You have destroyed what was left of my dignity tonight. But David wasn't finished. He pushed his chair back and stood towering over her. Destroyed? No, Sarah. I freed myself from 10 years of emptiness, from a barren wife who chained me to shame. Clara clapped slowly, her smirk widening. Well said, David. Well said. The guests erupted again, some laughing, some pitying, others already whispering about tomorrow's gossip. David Miller has left his barren wife. Sarah's knees trembled. For a moment, she thought she might collapse, but she steadied herself, her back straightening. Her voice, though soft, rang clear. You will regret this, David, she said. Her words silenced even the whispers for a heartbeat. Not because of what I will do, but because of what life will reveal. Truth does not stay buried forever, David sneered. Empty threats from an empty woman. Clara laughed, high and sharp. Go on then, Sarah. Run. Leave this house to a woman who can give David the future he deserves. The laughter returned, rolling like cruel applause. Sarah turned, her vision blurred with tears she refused to shed before them. She walked away slowly, each step feeling like it might break her, but each step also carrying her out of that hall of humiliation. Behind her, the whispers and laughter followed. She's gone. Good riddance. Poor thing. She'll die alone. The heavy doors closed behind her. Outside, the night air struck her face like ice. She stumbled to the side of the building, her body trembling. She gripped the stone wall, sobs tearing free now that no one could see. Her whole chest shook with grief. The man she had given her life to had cast her away like garbage. The woman who had been her shadow now gloated over her ruin. The people she had served dinner with mocked her as though she was less than human. Her knees buckled. She slid down against the wall, pressing her face into her hands. God, why? She choked. Why wasn't I enough? Why wasn't my love enough? The sobs racked her for long minutes until her tears slowed. Slowly, she lowered her hands and pressed them against her stomach. The gesture was unconscious, but something flickered in her chest. Her breaths steadied, her eyes lifted to the night sky. If I am barren, she whispered, voice trembling but steady. Then let life prove it. Not him. Never him. She drew in a long, shuddering breath, wiped her face, and stood. She walked into the night alone. But though she didn't know it yet, the woman David called barren carried within her the power to prove him wrong. And 15 years from that night, she would return, not broken, not barren, but crowned with the very legacy he mocked her for lacking. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd love you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give future to children and women abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing to hitting the subscribe button and turning on your notification bell. Also let us know in the comments where you are watching us from and how this story hit home for you. The morning after she walked out of David Miller's mansion, Sarah awoke in a small rented room, above a bakery. The walls were cracked, the mattress thin, but it was quiet. For the first time in 10 years, no one was shouting at her. No one was mocking her. No one was watching her every move with disdain. Yet silence was cruel. It left her alone with the echoes of David's voice. You're barren. Worthless. 10 years wasted on you. The bakery's scent of bread drifted upstairs, but it didn't comfort her. She sat on the edge of the bed, numb, clutching her hands together. Her wedding ring still circled her finger, heavy as lead. With a trembling hand, she pulled it off and set it on the table. Her chest ached as if her heart had been torn open. But she whispered to herself, You must stand. You must breathe. 2 weeks later, Sarah found herself sitting across from Dr. Helen Graham. The clinic smelled of antiseptic, clean but cold. Dr. Graham had been one of the only doctors Sarah had trusted during those long years of treatments. "Sarah," Dr. Graham said gently, flipping through thick folders. "I need to talk to you about something important." Sarah twisted her hands in her lap. "I know what you'll say. That I failed. That I'm barren." The doctor's eyes softened. "No, Sarah. That's not what I'm going to say." Sarah blinked. "Then what?" Dr. Graham sighed. "All of your tests over the years came back normal, perfectly healthy. No reason you shouldn't be able to conceive." Sarah froze. "That can't be true." David said. "I know what David said." Dr. Graham slid a file across the desk. "What he didn't tell you is this. Years ago, he was tested too. I wasn't supposed to show you this, but you deserve the truth." Sarah's hands shook as she opened the file. Numbers, medical terms, notes scrawled in neat handwriting. She didn't understand most of it, but the words low motility, severe infertility were clear enough. Her vision blurred. "No, Sarah," Dr. Graham said softly. "David was the one with the problem, not you." Her chest heaved. He knew?" The doctor hesitated. "He must have. He's had these results for years." The room tilted. Sarah gripped the edge of the chair. Memories crashed down. David sneering, "You gave me nothing." Clara whispering, "Some women just wither." The laughter, the whispers, the shame, all built on his lie. Her tears fell hot and fast. "He destroyed me. He let them mock me. He threw me away." Dr. Graham reached across the desk, touching her hand. "Sarah, you are not barren. You were never barren. Don't let his lie define you." But it already had, for 10 years. The weeks after the revelation were some of the hardest of Sarah's life. She worked in a small bookstore during the day, earning just enough to pay rent. At night, she returned to her little room, collapsing in exhaustion. Sometimes when she walked through town, she caught the whispers, "There she goes. The barren one, 10 years and no children. What a curse. David was right to leave her." Each word was a dagger. At night, lying on her thin mattress, Sarah replayed her sacrifices. Selling her grandmother's bracelet to cover David's first office rent. Selling her beloved car so his company could survive another month. Staying up until dawn with books and ledgers when he was too tired to do the numbers himself. Defending him to her family when they said, "David will destroy you." She had given him everything, and he had repaid her with lies and humiliation. One evening, unable to bear the weight, Sarah fell to her knees beside her bed. "God," she whispered, tears streaming down her face, "why did you let me carry this shame? Why did you let me love a man who destroyed me?" There was no answer, only silence. But in that silence, a strange seed of defiance stirred. David's words echoed, "You're barren, worthless." Dr. Graham's words followed, "You were never barren." Sarah wiped her tears. Her voice trembled, but she whispered into the dark, "Then I will prove it." Not for him. For me, she began to change. By day, she worked. By night, she studied. She reopened old books on finance and economics, scribbling notes by candlelight. She took online courses, earning certificates she couldn't afford but knew she needed. She cut every unnecessary expense, saving coins in a jar. Some nights, despair returned, whispering, "You're alone. You're ruined." But she pressed on. She had been broken before, humiliated, cast aside. But now she knew the truth, and truth was enough to light her first spark of strength. Years slipped by. Sarah's quiet determination carried her from the small bookstore to bigger ventures. With every saved coin, every late-night lesson, every calculated risk, she built a foundation David never imagined she could. Her first consulting client was a nervous small business owner. Sarah worked late into the night on his books, found where money was leaking, and saved him from collapse. He paid her double. Grateful. Word spread. Soon, she had more clients, small shops, restaurants, even a local theatre. She learned, adapted, grew. The timid woman who once sat in David's shadow was gone. In her place was a woman shaping her own future. It was during a fundraiser in London that she met him. The room was filled with the chatter of philanthropists and business elites. Sarah stood near the back, reviewing numbers for a children's charity she had volunteered to help. "Excuse me," a deep voice said. She looked up and saw a tall man, silver threaded through his dark hair, his presence steady but warm. "William Carter," he introduced himself, offering his hand. She hesitated, then took it. Sarah. His eyes lingered on hers, not in the way David's once had, hungry and arrogant, but gentle, curious. "I hear you're the one who saved the Kensington Youth Programme." They were nearly bankrupt until someone clever found a way through. Her cheeks warmed. "I only adjusted their accounts," William chuckled. "Adjusted? You turned disaster into sustainability. That isn't adjustment. That's brilliance." For the first time in years, Sarah felt seen, not as a failure, not as barren, but as capable. Days turned into weeks. William sought her out at other events. He asked her opinion on projects, listened intently when she spoke. Over dinner one evening, he leaned forward, his eyes steady. "Tell me something, Sarah. Do you believe in second chances?" She hesitated. "I'm not sure I ever had a first one." He smiled softly. "Then perhaps it's time you did." Her heart trembled. She had built walls around it, high and thick. But slowly, brick by brick, William's patience broke them down. They married quietly a year later. There were no extravagant displays, no forced smiles, just two souls choosing each other. And then, one morning, Sarah felt a flutter in her body. Strange, fragile, miraculous. The doctor confirmed it. She was pregnant. She wept in William's arms. "They said I couldn't. They called me barren." William kissed her hands. "They lied, Sarah. You were never barren, and even if you had been, you are still everything. But this," his hand rested on her stomach, "this is our miracle." 9 months later, Sarah held a baby girl in her arms. Tears streamed down her face as her daughter wailed, alive and strong. She pressed her lips to the child's forehead, whispering, "You are proof. Proof I was never what he called me." Over the next decade, her home filled with laughter. She gave birth to 3 more children, 2 boys and another girl. Each birth healed another wound, silenced another cruel echo of David's voice. When her second son was born, she whispered to him in the quiet hospital room, "They said I was barren. Look at you, my love. Look at you." Her children grew bright and strong, running through wide gardens, their laughter echoing through halls filled with warmth. Unlike the cold, silent mansion she once knew, William's home was alive. But Sarah was not only a mother. With William's support, she expanded her ventures, event halls, catering companies, charitable foundations. She poured her energy into philanthropy, especially for children abandoned or mocked like she once had been. Soon society whispered not of the barren Sarah Miller, but of Sarah Carter, brilliant businesswoman, loving mother, billionaire's wife, philanthropist admired across nations. Her face graced magazine covers. Sarah Carter builds empire for orphans and women. Philanthropist Sarah Carter expands global foundations. The Queen of Silent Strength. Each headline was another nail in the coffin of David's lies. One autumn afternoon, Sarah sat in her study. Her youngest daughter, Lily, painted at a small easel nearby, humming to herself. Sunlight filtered through tall windows. Mina, her assistant, walked in holding a glossy magazine. "Mom," she said, "you'll want to see this." Sarah looked up from her papers. Mina placed the magazine on the desk. On the cover, bold letters screamed, "Sarah Carter, billionaire's wife and philanthropist, to attend David Miller's gala." Sarah's breath caught for just a moment. She looked at the headline, then at the photograph of herself smiling alongside William and their children. She closed the magazine gently and smiled. So, she murmured, her voice calm but steady with fire. The time has come. David Miller's phone buzzed again. He pressed it to his ear, jaw clenched, as the voice of his investor rang through. David, we're pulling out. The numbers don't add up. Too much risk. No! David barked, pacing across his office, sweat beading at his hairline. You can't pull now. Give me 6 months. Just 6. 6 months won't save you, the voice cut him off. You're sinking, and I won't be dragged down with you. The line went dead. David hurled the phone across the desk. Papers scattered. His empire, the one he once boasted about, the one he had humiliated Sarah to protect, was collapsing like rotten timber. Behind him, Clara's voice sliced through the tension. Another one gone? He turned sharply. Clara stood in the doorway, arms folded, her crimson nails gleaming. Her face was beautiful, yes, but hardened, sharp with bitterness. Don't start, David growled. She laughed coldly. Oh, I won't. Why should I? I told you, didn't I? Reckless deals, too much pride, too much spending. But no, David Miller always knows best. David rubbed his temples. We just need the gala. A show of strength. If they see me still shining, they'll believe in me again. Clara stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. A show. That's all you're good at anymore. Fake smiles, empty pockets. You think a chandelier can hide rot? His temper flared. This gala will work. They'll see I'm still powerful. Clara smirked. Powerful? Or desperate? Her words lingered like poison. The night of the gala arrived. Crown Street Hall glittered with chandeliers, the air rich with perfume and wine. Waiters carried trays of champagne. Musicians played soft strings in the corner. Guests mingled, laughing, but beneath it all buzzed a current of speculation. David greeted them with his old rehearsed charm, though his collar already felt too tight. Mr. Turner, he said, forcing cheer. So glad you came. Exciting times ahead, new ventures abroad. Turner gave a polite nod, but leaned toward another guest as he walked away. He looks tired. I hear the company's bleeding money. Another whispered back. He's trying too hard. This gala's smoke and mirrors. David caught snippets, his forced smile twitching at the edges. He poured himself champagne, his hand trembling. Clara swept in beside him, dazzling in crimson silk. Her smile was sharp as glass. Smile wider, David. They can already smell your fear. Later that night, the whispers grew louder. 2 women near the bar leaned close. Have you heard? Heard what? She's coming. Who? Sarah Carter. David stiffened, overhearing. He forced a laugh, his voice carrying. Sarah Carter? Don't tell me you mean my ex-wife, the barren one who disappeared years ago? But the whispers ignored him. They say she married William Carter, the billionaire. And they say she has children now? 4 of them. 4? That's impossible. No, it's true. I heard they're beautiful. The Carters are the golden family now. David barked a laugh, too loud, brittle. Lies. She was barren. Everyone knows it. Probably adopted to save face. But inside, his stomach churned. Clara turned to him, her face pale. 4 children? She whispered. David scoffed. Nonsense. They're not hers. She's making herself look important. But his collar tightened. Sweat trickled down his spine. The master of ceremonies stepped forward, tapping the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our honored guests, Mr. and Mrs. William Carter, with their family. The grand doors opened. The hall fell silent. Sarah Carter walked in, radiant. Her gown shimmered, her hair swept elegantly, her chin lifted high. She walked hand in hand with William Carter, whose presence exuded wealth and power. And behind them, 4 children stepped in. 2 boys, 2 girls, poised, graceful, dressed in tailored perfection. They looked like royalty. The hall gasped. That's Sarah. David's barren wife. How is this possible? David's world tilted. His knees nearly buckled. Clara's lips parted in shock. No, she has children. Sarah's eyes swept the hall, calm, steady. For a heartbeat, they locked on David. Not anger, not sadness, just quiet, devastating power. David's throat closed, sweat dripped down his temple. His heart hammered so loud he could barely hear the applause that thundered for Sarah. The whispers spread like wildfire. She was never barren. He lied. All those years, he lied. And now, look at her. A billionaire's wife. Her children are proof. She's everything he mocked her for lacking. One investor leaned to another. Why do business with David when you can deal with her? David staggered, gripping a chair. His vision blurred as if the chandeliers were laughing at him. Clara clawed his arm, her nails digging in. You fool, she hissed. You told me she was barren. You let me mock her. You ruined us both. David's voice cracked. She was never barren. Sarah walked deeper into the hall, William beside her, their children close. Guests surged forward, eager to greet them. Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. David stood frozen, humiliated, invisible in the glow of her return. The woman he had once called barren had walked back into his world. Not broken, not shamed, but crowned with life, love, and power. And as he trembled, sweat dripping down his temple, one truth clawed at him. He had destroyed himself with his own lie. The chandeliers above Crown Street Hall sparkled like frozen stars. Every guest was hushed now, their eyes fixed on the stage. The host's voice rang across the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are honored with an announcement. A foundation that will reshape lives. Please welcome Mr. and Mrs. William Carter. The applause was polite at first. Then Sarah stepped forward, her gown glimmering like liquid gold under the lights, and a hush fell. Beside her, William stood tall, dignified, the embodiment of quiet power. Their 4 children sat at the front, each poised, their faces radiant with pride. David Miller's throat closed, his hands went clammy. He forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. Clara leaned closer, her breath hot and sharp against his ear. Look at her. Look at them. They worship her. Shut up, David muttered. But his voice cracked. On stage, Sarah took the microphone with steady hands. Her voice was calm, clear, carrying across the marble hall. 15 years ago, she began, I was told I was barren, worthless, that I had failed as a woman, a wife, a human being. I carried those words like chains. A ripple of murmurs stirred. Guests shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward. Sarah's eyes swept the room. But tonight, I stand before you not as the woman mocked for what she lacked, but as a mother, a wife, and a leader. She gestured gracefully toward her children. The proof stands before you. Gasps rose like thunder. Whispers erupted. She has children. Then all these years, she wasn't barren? David's body shook. His jaw worked furiously as he hissed under his breath. Lies. Tricks. She must have adopted them. Yes, adopted to embarrass me. But then the screens behind Sarah flickered. At first, a logo appeared. The Carter Global Foundation. Applause scattered across the room. Then the next slide appeared. Medical documents filled the screen. Scans, charts, stamped reports. At the top of one file, David Miller, Male Infertility Report. The words were stark, undeniable. A collective gasp shook the hall. Guests leaned toward one another, whispering furiously. It was him all along. He blamed her when it was his fault. What a monster. He ruined her life with lies. David leapt to his feet. No, he shouted, his voice booming, panicked. This is fake. She forged this. But the slides continued, displaying multiple dated reports, signed by doctors, certified by clinics. Each one undeniable. The murmurs grew sharper, filled with anger. Impossible to fake those. He must have known. All these years he let her take the blame. David's knees trembled. He clutched the table for balance. Clara's face twisted with rage. She gripped his sleeve, hissing. You fool, you let me mock her. You told me she was barren. You made me build my life on your lie. Shut up, David snapped, his face drenched in sweat. But Clara ripped her arm free, glaring at him with disgust. On stage, Sarah remained calm, her face serene though her eyes glimmered with quiet fire. I was called barren, she said softly, her voice carrying even through the shocked murmurs. I was mocked, humiliated, discarded. But truth cannot stay buried. And tonight, truth speaks for itself. She gestured to the screen where the reports glared, then to her children seated proudly in the front row. Here is the truth. Here is my legacy. Here is the proof that I was never what they called me. Thunderous applause erupted. Some guests stood, clapping loudly, others gasped and shook their heads in disbelief. David staggered forward, his voice desperate. Sarah! Sarah, stop this! But her eyes never flicked toward him. She turned slightly to William, who rested a hand on hers, in silent solidarity. David's voice cracked as he stumbled closer, his words trembling. Sarah! My Sarah! I was wrong. I made mistakes, I lied. But you gave me children, our children. The crowd gasped again. Sarah finally turned her gaze on him. Her eyes were calm, cutting. Her voice was like a blade wrapped in silk. No, David. I gave William children. I gave him joy. You lost that right the day you called me barren. The crowd erupted. Applause, gasps, laughter, murmurs all crashing together like a storm. David's knees buckled. He sank slightly, clutching at the edge of the stage, sweat dripping down his temple. Clara covered her mouth with a sharp laugh. You're finished, David. She's destroyed you. David shot her a desperate glare, but the fire in her eyes was cold, triumphant. The applause swelled louder, drowning his stammering words, and Sarah stood tall, her children watching with pride, her dignity untouched. David clung to the edge of the stage, his knees giving way beneath him. His once polished shoes scuffed against the marble floor as he collapsed, trembling. The spotlight that once made him glow now burned like fire, exposing every crack in his mask. Sarah! His voice cracked, echoing through the hall. Please, listen to me. I was wrong. I was blinded by pride. Forgive me, Sarah. Take me back. We can start again. Gasps rippled through the audience. Some covered their mouths. Others whispered with gleeful disgust. Look at him, on his knees. Pathetic. That man once mocked her in front of us all. Now he begs like a dog. David stretched his hand towards Sarah's gown, fingers trembling. Sarah, my Sarah, don't walk away, please. I can't live without you. Clara stepped forward sharply, her heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. Her eyes blazed as she looked down at him. You miserable fool, she hissed, loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. You lied to me too. You told me she was barren. You let me laugh at her, mock her, when all along it was you. David's face twisted. Clara, don't... But she didn't stop. She laughed cruelly, bitterly. You humiliated her. You destroyed her life, and you dragged me into your lie. Do you know what you've made me? A joke, a clown, the mistress who mocked the woman who was always better than me. The crowd erupted, some gasping, others smirking, whispering furiously. She turned on him. He deserves it. She's admitting Sarah was better all along. Clara sneered, her voice dripping venom. You thought you were a king, David. But look at you, bankrupt, childless, begging on your knees. And she... Clara turned, gesturing toward Sarah, who stood serene. She's the queen you could never cage. Applause burst from several tables. The sound rolled through the hall, laughter following. David grabbed at Clara's dress desperately. Clara, don't do this. You're all I have left. She ripped her gown free, glaring down at him with disgust. You have nothing left, David. Nothing. She turned on her heel and stormed out, her heels clicking until the grand doors slammed behind her. David sobbed openly now, his forehead pressed against the stage, His voice cracked like a child's. "Sarah, please, please, give me one more chance. I'll change, I swear. I'll make it right. I'll love you properly. Just don't leave me like this." The guests shook their heads, disgust and pity mingling. Love her properly? After everything? He mocked her as barren, and now he begs. Too late, David. Far too late. Sarah finally stepped forward, her children rising instinctively from their seats. She looked down at David, broken, weeping, desperate. Her voice was calm, each word like a blade dipped in honey. "You once mocked me as barren. You called me worthless. You stripped me of dignity in front of family, friends, and strangers." She gestured toward her children, standing proudly. "But tonight, I stand here with 4 children, a husband who loves me, and a name respected in every room." Her eyes locked on David's trembling form. "You didn't break me, David. You freed me." Applause thundered, deafening, relentless. Guests rose to their feet, clapping furiously. Some whistled, others shouted, "Bravo!" The sound swallowed David's pitiful sobs. David reached for her again, his voice drowned by the roar. "Sarah, please, don't leave me." But Sarah turned. William stepped forward, his arms steady around her. Their children gathered close, their presence radiant. Together they walked down the steps of the stage, their heads held high. The applause followed them like a coronation march. Behind them, David remained on the floor, alone, humiliated, forgotten. His sobs were lost in the thunder of Sarah's triumph. Outside, the night air was cool and crisp. Sarah paused at the top of the marble steps, looking out at the city lights. She drew a deep breath, her heart steady. "You said I was barren," she whispered to herself, her lips curving into a soft, victorious smile. "But tonight, the truth crowned me." William kissed her hand. Their children hugged her tightly, their laughter breaking through the night, and together they walked away, leaving behind the ruins of David's pride and lies, and carrying forward the undeniable truth of her victory. Truth cannot stay buried forever. Betrayal may crush you, but resilience can crown you. Never let someone define your worth. Life has a way of proving lies wrong.